Chen Park was sitting in a therapist's office when he realized he'd finally met a woman who terrified him, not with violence or threats, or the kind of danger he'd spent his life navigating. No, Dr. Maya Reyes terrified him because she looked at him for exactly 30 seconds during their first session and said, "You're a textbook stalker with obsessive tendencies, emotional unavailability stemming from unresolved grief, and a pathological need to control outcomes. You're also in my office because you're finally tired of being empty. So, are you ready to do the actual work, or are you here to waste both our time?" And for the first time in 4 years, since his sister died, since he'd built walls so high nothing got through, Chen Park felt something crack open in his chest. He was in so much trouble. Before we dive into how the most calculating man in Seoul ended up in therapy falling for the one woman who could see through every move he made, I need to tell you something. If you're new here, welcome. But this story? This is a continuation. This is what happened to Chen Park after he let Amanda Brooks go, after he lost her to Kang Min Seo, after he sent a wedding gift and disappeared for a year. If you haven't watched Part 1 and Part 2, the story of Amanda, the dance competition, the warehouse, the impossible choice, go watch those first. You'll understand why this man sitting in a therapist's office looking at a woman like she's both his salvation and his destruction matters so much. And to everyone who watched Amanda's story, who commented asking about Chen, who said, "I wanted her to pick him," or "Chen deserves his own happy ending," or "Please tell us what happened to him," this is for you. Thank you for caring about a man who was the villain in someone else's love story. Thank you for believing he could be the hero in his own. Your comments, your support, your belief that broken people can heal. That's why this story exists. So, hit that subscribe button right now because Chen Park's redemption arc is about to wreck you in the best possible way. This is a story about a man who learned the difference between obsession and love, between control and trust, between watching someone from the shadows and standing beside them in the light. And it starts with the worst year of Chen Park's life. Let's begin. 364 days. That's how long Chen Park had been alone since he'd watched Amanda Brooks walk away from him in that restaurant. Since he'd made the choice to let her go. Since he'd proven he could want something and not take it. It should have felt like victory, like growth, like proof he wasn't the monster his method suggested. Instead, it felt like dying slowly. Chen stood in his penthouse apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul, artwork worth more than most people's houses, furniture so expensive it came with insurance policies, and felt nothing. The space was immaculate, cold, perfect, empty. He'd tried everything, thrown himself into work, expanding the Black Dragon Syndicate's operations, making money he didn't need, building power he didn't want. He'd tried traveling, Tokyo, Singapore, London, but every city felt the same. He'd tried other women, beautiful, sophisticated women who understood the game, but he couldn't even pretend to be interested, because every single one of them wasn't Amanda Brooks. And that was the problem, wasn't it? He'd spent a year telling himself he'd done the right thing, that letting her go was proof he'd learned, grown, changed. But the truth whispered in the 3 a.m. darkness, he'd let her go because she'd never been his to keep. She'd loved Min Seo, and Chen had been patient, strategic, 3 moves ahead. And it hadn't mattered. Sometimes the right move was still a losing move. His phone buzzed. Daijung, his lieutenant. "Boss, we have a problem." Chen closed his eyes. "What kind of problem?" "Lee Sang-min's crew is moving into our territory in Itaewon. They're being aggressive. We need to respond." A year ago, Chen would have already had a plan. 3 moves ahead, surgical precision, destroy them before they knew what hit them. But now? Handle it, Chen said. Boss? I said handle it. Use your judgment. Silence. Then, are you okay? No. He wasn't okay. He hadn't been okay for 364 days. I'm fine. Just tired. He hung up. Chen looked at his reflection in the window. 32 years old, rich beyond measure, powerful beyond most people's comprehension, and so goddamn lonely he'd forgotten what it felt like to want to wake up in the morning. His sister's voice echoed in his memory. Chen, when you love someone, you don't own them. You stand beside them. You let them choose, even if they don't choose you. She'd told him that 3 weeks before she died, before her husband murdered her. Before Chen had spent a year destroying the man who'd taken her, Chen had thought he understood, but he hadn't. Not until Amanda. His phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Park, this is Officer Kim from Seoul Metro Police. You've been in an accident. Chen's mind went blank. What? A rear-end collision at the intersection of... Are you injured? Chen looked down at his hands. He was standing in his apartment. He wasn't in a car. He wasn't... Mr. Park, are you there? I think you have the wrong number. License plate Seoul 7892, black Mercedes S-Class. That was his car, but he wasn't driving. He hadn't left his apartment in 2 days. That's my vehicle, but I'm not... Sir, you rear-ended another vehicle 20 minutes ago. The other driver is requesting your insurance information. Can you come to the scene? Chen grabbed his jacket. His mind raced. If someone had stolen his car, if this was a setup, if... But when he got to the intersection 15 minutes later, his car was there. His driver, who he'd sent home hours ago and definitely hadn't called, was talking to police. Mr. Park. His driver bowed. I'm so sorry. You called. Said you needed the car brought around, that you'd meet me at this intersection. But when I got here, I was distracted looking for you and I rear-ended the car in front of me. I take full responsibility. Chen stared at him. I never called you. But the number, it was your number. Show me your phone. His driver did. The call log showed Chen's number. 25 minutes ago. Chen's blood ran cold. Someone had spoofed his number. Called his driver. Set up this accident. But why? What was the play? He looked at the car his driver had hit. A silver Toyota. The driver was standing with police. A woman. 30s maybe. Black hair, professional clothes, holding her neck like it hurt. Insurance scam? Blackmail setup? Surveillance op? Chen approached. I'm Chen Park. I apologize for my driver's error. I'll cover all damages and medical expenses. Please send the bills to... She turned around and Chen forgot how to finish his sentence. She was beautiful, but that wasn't what stopped him. Beautiful women were everywhere in his world. It was her eyes, dark brown, sharp, intelligent, and looking at him like she could see straight through his expensive suit to the broken mess underneath. You're Chen Park, she said. Not a question, a statement. Yes. The Chen Park. Warning bells. She knew who he was. This was a setup. Had to be. Are you injured? He asked carefully. Whiplash. Maybe. Won't know until tomorrow. She tilted her head, studying him. But that's not the real problem here, is it? I don't understand. You're spiraling, she said matter-of-factly. Probably for a while. You're distracted, which is why someone could spoof your number and you didn't notice. You're not sleeping, which is why you look like you haven't had a decent night's rest in months. You're isolated, which is why you sent your driver home, but he's the only person who checks on you regularly. Chen's mouth went dry. Excuse me? She pulled a business card from her purse and held it out. Dr. Maya Reyes, clinical psychologist. Specialization, trauma, grief, and attachment disorders. You need professional help before you hurt someone else the way you're hurting yourself, she said. Her voice wasn't unkind, just direct. Clinical. This accident? Your driver being distracted because you're distracted? That's a symptom, and symptoms get worse if you ignore the disease. You don't know anything about me. I know you're dangerous, she said, to yourself, to others. And I know that whatever you lost that's making you spiral, you're not going to fix it by pretending you're fine. She turned to the police officer. I'll handle the insurance through his company. No need for a report. Then she looked back at Chen. The offer stands. You want to stop drowning? Call me. You want to keep pretending you're fine? Don't. Either way, I hope you figure it out before someone gets hurt. She walked to her car, still functional despite the dent, and drove away. Chen stood on the sidewalk holding her business card and feeling like he'd just been hit by something much harder than a car accident. Chen Park had bought companies, destroyed rivals, built an empire. He'd faced down men with guns, negotiated with politicians, survived a childhood that would have broken most people. But walking into Dr. Maya Reyes's office 3 days later was the hardest thing he'd done in years. The office was nothing like he'd expected. Not cold and clinical, warm, comfortable. Books everywhere, psychology texts, sure, but also novels, poetry, medical journals. A couch that actually looked inviting, soft lighting, a diffuser spreading some kind of calming scent. And Maya Reyes sitting in a chair across from the couch, wearing professional clothes but somehow making them look effortless, holding a tablet, looking at him with those sharp eyes that saw too much. Mr. Park, she said, I'm surprised you came. You told me I was dangerous. I wanted to prove you wrong. By coming to therapy, that's actually proving me right. It means you recognize there's a problem. Chen sat on the couch. It was more comfortable than his own furniture. Or maybe I'm here to figure out what your angle is. My angle? The accident was too convenient. You knowing who I am, having a business card ready, the speech about me spiraling. It's a very good setup for, what? Blackmail? Surveillance? Getting close to me for someone else? Maya smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who'd heard this before and was tired of it. Let me save us both some time, she said. I'm a clinical psychologist. I specialize in trauma, grief, and attachment disorders. I've been practicing for 8 years. I have a PhD from Stanford and a medical degree from Johns Hopkins. I don't need money. My family has plenty. I don't need connections. I have those too. And I don't care about your criminal organization or your power or whatever dangerous things you do. She leaned forward. What I care about is that 3 days ago, I was in a car accident because someone called your driver pretending to be you, and that someone could do that because you're so disconnected from your life that you didn't notice. And when I looked at you, I saw a man drowning. So I gave you my card because that's what I do. I help people who are drowning. Chen felt something shift in his chest. You don't know me. No, but I know trauma. I know grief. I know what it looks like when someone builds walls so high they forget how to let anything in. She paused. So, are you here to waste my time with paranoia, or are you here to do actual work? And that's when Chen realized she wasn't afraid of him, at all. Not his reputation, not his power, not his money. She looked at him and saw a patient, a problem to solve, a person to help. It was the most refreshing thing he'd experienced in a year. I let someone go. Chen heard himself say. A year ago, I wanted her, more than I'd wanted anything in 4 years. But she loved someone else, so I let her go. That sounds healthy. It was, I think. I mean, I didn't force her. I gave her a choice. I did the right thing. So why are you drowning? Chen's throat felt tight. Because I can't stop thinking about her, about what I did wrong, about what I should have done differently, about how I saw her first, wanted her first, but he moved faster and... He stopped, hearing himself, hearing how insane it sounded. Maya was writing notes. Tell me about her. So he did. He told her about the dance competition, about seeing Amanda and feeling something break open, about the plan he'd made, about Mincio taking her first, about the warehouse, the trade, the way Amanda had chosen herself. He told her everything, things he'd never told anyone. When he finished, Maya was quiet for a long moment. Do you know what I hear? She finally said. That I'm obsessive and dangerous, and I hear someone who confused want with need, who saw a woman having a moment of joy and decided that joy was meant for him, who made elaborate plans to meet her naturally, but didn't stop to think that maybe she was a whole person with her own life and desires that had nothing to do with you. Chen felt like she'd slapped him. I know she was her own person. That's why I let her go. No. You let her go because she chose someone else. If she'd chosen you, would you have let her go? Silence. That's what I thought. Maya set down her tablet. Chen, you didn't love Amanda Brooks. You don't even know Amanda Brooks. You loved an idea, a fantasy, a 3-minute dance performance that made you feel something you hadn't felt in 4 years. And you built an entire obsession around that feeling without once considering that she was a real person with her own trauma, her own struggles, her own life. I know that now. Do you? Because from what you've told me, you spent a year mourning what you lost. But Chen, you never had her. You can't lose what you never had. The words hit like bullets. So what was I mourning? Chen whispered. Yourself. The version of yourself that could still feel something. The hope that maybe you weren't as empty as you thought. Maya's voice softened. Your sister died 4 years ago. You've been empty ever since. Amanda made you feel not empty for 3 weeks. And when she left, the emptiness came back. That's what you're mourning, not her. The absence of emptiness. Chen's hands were shaking. I don't know how to fix that. That's why you're here. Chen went to therapy every week. Tuesday afternoons at 3 p.m., he'd clear his schedule, leave his phone with Daijung, and sit on Maya's comfortable couch and do the hardest work of his life. They talked about his sister, about how he'd watched her marry a man who would kill her, about how he'd blamed himself, about how he'd spent 4 years trying to feel nothing so he'd never feel that pain again. They talked about control, about how he'd built an empire on being 3 moves ahead, but you couldn't strategize human emotion. You couldn't plan love. You couldn't control whether someone chose you. They talked about the difference between want and need, between obsession and genuine connection, between watching someone and knowing someone. And slowly, so slowly Chen barely noticed, he started to feel human again. Week 3, he admitted, I don't think I ever loved her. Amanda. I think I loved the idea of loving someone. Week 5. My sister told me to let people choose, but I never actually let Amanda choose me. I just expected her to, like wanting her was enough. Week 7. I've been alone for 4 years because I was afraid to feel anything. but being empty is worse than being hurt. Week 8. Maya said something that changed everything. Chen, do you know why I gave you my card? Because you're a good person who helps people? Partly, but also, she paused. Because when you looked at me at that accident for about 3 seconds, you looked at me like I was a person. Not a problem to solve or a threat to assess or a pawn to move. You looked confused and curious and human, and I thought, there's someone real underneath all that strategy. Someone worth helping. Chen's heart did something weird. You saw that in 3 seconds. I'm very good at my job. She smiled, and Chen really realized, that she was beautiful, not just objectively, but specifically. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking, the way she listened like every word mattered. Maya, he said slowly, can I ask you something? Of course. When I'm not in this office, do you ever think about me? Her smile faded. Chen, I'm not asking you to. I'm asking if you do. Long silence. Yes, she finally said. I think about whether you're sleeping, whether you're eating, whether you're letting yourself feel things, or going back to being empty. I think about your progress. I think about... She stopped. About what? About whether I'm helping you or making things worse by being the first person in a year who sees you. Chen leaned forward. You're not making things worse. How do you know? Because for the first time in 8 weeks, I'm thinking about someone who isn't Amanda Brooks. I'm thinking about you. Maya's expression shifted. Something flickered across her face. Surprise maybe, or concern, or something else. That's transference, she said carefully. It's common. Patients develop feelings for their therapists because we're safe. We listen. We validate. But it's not real, Chen. I know what transference is. I've read every psychology book in your office while waiting for sessions. Chen's heart was pounding. And this isn't that. I'm not confused. I'm not transferring Amanda's ghost onto you. I'm noticing you. Maya Reyes, the person who told me I was dangerous and offered help anyway. The person who listens to my trauma every week and doesn't flinch. The person who's sharp and brilliant and doesn't take my bullshit. Chen, I'm your therapist. I know. This is a professional relationship. I know. There are ethical boundaries, rules. I could lose my license if... I'm not asking you to break any rules. Chen held her gaze. I'm telling you that something's happening. For me. And I needed you to know. Because if I'm going to keep coming here, keep doing this work, keep healing, I need to be honest. Completely honest. Even about inconvenient feelings. Maya was quiet for a long time. You're right, she finally said. Honesty is important. So here's my honesty. I think about you too. More than I should. More than is professional. And that's a problem. Because I'm your therapist, Chen. I can't be anything else. Not while you're my patient. So what do? We have 2 options. 1. You find a new therapist. I refer you to someone excellent. We end our therapeutic relationship and see what happens without professional boundaries. Chen's chest tightened. What's option 2? You stay my patient. We acknowledge these feelings exist, but we don't act on them. We maintain professional boundaries. You keep doing the work. And we see if what you're feeling is real or just gratitude for being seen. And what you're feeling? She looked away. It doesn't matter what I'm feeling. My job is to help you heal. Not to... Maya, what are you feeling? Her jaw tightened. I'm feeling like I should have referred you to someone else 8 weeks ago. Because somewhere between your third session and now, I stopped seeing a patient and started seeing—" She stopped. Seeing what? Seeing someone I could fall for. If circumstances were different, if boundaries didn't exist, if I wasn't your therapist. The air between them felt electric. "So we're both drowning now," Chen said quietly. Maya laughed. It sounded like breaking. "Yeah, apparently. What's the ethical thing to do?" "The ethical thing? I refer you to Dr. Kim. He's excellent. You keep doing your therapy with him. In 6 months, when you're no longer my patient, we talk. See if what we're both feeling survived the separation. 6 months. Minimum. That's the ethical guideline." Chen thought about it. About walking away from the person who'd seen him, really seen him. About waiting 6 more months when he'd already waited a year. About doing the right thing even when every part of him wanted to do the opposite. "Okay," he said. Maya's eyes widened. "Okay. I'll switch to Dr. Kim. I'll keep doing the work. And in 6 months, if we both still feel this, we'll talk. Chen, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do. Because a year ago, I obsessed over a woman I didn't know. I stalked her, planned to manipulate her, refused to let her make her own choice, and I lost. Not because she chose wrong, because I never let her choose me. I chose for her." He stood up. "I'm not doing that with you. If this is real, if I actually—" He couldn't finish. "Then I need to prove it. By doing the hard thing. The right thing. By letting you choose. Without pressure or manipulation or any of my usual strategies." Maya stood too. 6 months is a long time. I've waited longer for things that mattered less. She walked him to the door. They stood there 3 feet apart, both knowing they couldn't touch. Shouldn't touch. Not yet. "Chen," Maya said softly, "what if this feeling doesn't survive the separation? Then I'll have learned another important lesson about the difference between want and need." He smiled. It felt real. "Either way, I'm not empty anymore, so thank you. For that." He left. And for the first time in over a year, Chen Park felt something other than loneliness. He felt hope. Dr. Kim was excellent. Chen kept doing the work. He talked about his sister, his emptiness, his need for control. He talked about Amanda and what he'd learned. He talked about Maya and whether what he felt was real or transference or some desperate attempt to not be alone. Dr. Kim didn't give answers. He asked questions, and slowly, Chen found his own answers. Week 12 with Dr. Kim. "I think I confused want with need with Amanda, but with Maya, I'm terrified. That feels different." Week 18. "She's not a fantasy. She's real. She's sharp and sometimes she's hard on me and she doesn't let me get away with anything. And I don't just want the idea of her. I want her." Week 22. "I don't know if she'll still feel the same when the 6 months are up. But I know I will. This isn't transference. This isn't trauma bonding. I think this is real." Chen changed in other ways too. He delegated more at work. Let Dai Young handle operations while Chen focused on legitimizing parts of the business. He started going to art galleries, not to buy but to look. He read books for pleasure. He called his few friends and actually talked to them. He learned how to be a person instead of just a strategy engine. And every Tuesday at 3 p.m., he very carefully didn't walk past Maya's office, didn't call, didn't text, didn't accidentally on purpose run into her, because that would be manipulation, and he was done manipulating. 5 months and 3 weeks after their last session, Chen's phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Chen." Maya's voice. careful, nervous. "It's Maya Reyes." His heart stopped. "Hi." 6 months isn't up yet, I know, but She paused. "I need to tell you something. And I didn't want to wait until the official date because that felt like game playing, and I'm done with games." "Okay." "I think about you constantly. I thought maybe the feelings would fade once you weren't my patient anymore. They didn't. They got stronger, and I'm terrified because I've never done this before. Felt something for a former patient, and all my training says this is dangerous and complicated and potentially disastrous." Chen's hands were shaking. But I can't stop thinking about you, about whether you're eating, whether Dr. Kim is helping, whether you're still healing or backsliding, whether you think about me the way I think about you. "I do," Chen said quietly. "Every day. So what do we do?" "Well, we have 1 week until the 6-month mark. We could wait." "I don't want to wait," Maya interrupted. "I've been waiting for 5 months and 3 weeks. I'm done waiting." Chen smiled. Actually smiled. The kind of smile that hurt because it was real. "Are you asking me out, Dr. Reyes?" "I'm asking if you want to get coffee, as 2 people, not as therapist and former patient, not as strategist and Mark, just us." "Yes. When?" "Now?" Chen was already grabbing his jacket. "Where?" She gave him an address, a small cafe in Hongdae, 20 minutes away. Chen made it in 12. Maya was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her professional clothes, looking nervous and real and beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with strategy or fantasy. Chen sat down across from her. "Hi," he said. "Hi." They both laughed. Nervous, awkward, completely human. "I don't know how to do this," Maya admitted. "The last time I went on a date was 3 years ago, and it was terrible." "I've never actually done this," Chen said. "I've strategized dates, planned seductions, but actually just sitting with someone I like? No agenda? I have no idea what I'm doing." "That's kind of refreshing." They ordered coffee, talked about nothing important, about books and movies, and whether Seoul's subway system was efficiently designed, about childhood pets and college regrets, and the worst advice they'd ever received. And somewhere between the second cup of coffee and the conversation about whether pineapple belonged on pizza, Chen realized this was what he'd been missing. Not the fantasy of connection, the reality of it. The messy, awkward, completely unpredictable reality of actually knowing someone. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said eventually. "Anything." That night at the accident, you looked at me for 3 seconds like I was a person. What were you thinking? Chen thought back. I was thinking, she's not afraid of me. And I couldn't figure out if that made you brave or stupid or just completely ignorant of who I was. All 3, probably. But it made me curious. And I haven't been curious about anything in years. He paused. "What were you thinking when you looked at me?" "I was thinking, this man is drowning, and no one around him even notices. And I wanted to throw him a life preserver, even if he didn't take it." "I took it." "You did." She smiled. "And look at you now, not drowning, just nervous about a coffee date." "Is that what this is? A date?" "I think so. Is that okay?" Chen reached across the table. Slowly, giving her time to pull away, his fingers brushed hers. "It's more than okay." Maya's hand turned, intertwining their fingers. "I need you to know something. If we do this, if we try this, I can't be your therapist anymore. You'll stay with Dr. Kim. We'll have boundaries. We'll have to navigate this carefully." "I know. And there's no guarantee it'll work. We might try and discover we're better as therapist and patient than as whatever this becomes." "I know that too." And you're okay with that risk? Chen thought about Amanda, about a year of mourning someone he'd never known, about the difference between fantasy and reality, between control and choice. I'm not just okay with it, he said. I want it, the risk, the uncertainty, the possibility that it might not work, because that's real. That's actually trying. That's not just wanting, it's choosing, and I'm choosing to try, if you'll let me. Maya's eyes were bright. I'm choosing to try too. They sat in that cafe for 4 hours, talking, laughing, learning each other, not as therapist and patient, not as strategist and Mark, just as Chen and Maya. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their own separate loneliness. When they finally left, Chen walked her to her car. Can I see you again? He asked. I hope so. I have a lot more questions about pineapple on pizza. It's an abomination and you're wrong. We'll see about that. She got in her car, started the engine, then rolled down the window. Chen? Yeah? Thank you. For doing the work, for waiting, for choosing the hard way instead of the easy way. I know that was hard. It was worth it. He meant it. Every second. She smiled, drove away, and Chen Park stood in a parking lot in Hongdae, watching her taillights disappear, and realized something profound. He wasn't empty anymore, not because Maya had filled the emptiness, but because he'd done the work to fill it himself, to heal the wounds his sister's death had left, to understand the difference between want and need, to learn how to be human instead of just strategic. Maya hadn't saved him. She'd just shown him he was worth saving. And that made all the difference. 1 year later, Chen Park was sitting in a different therapist's office when Dr. Kim said something that made him stop and think. You haven't mentioned Amanda Brooks in 6 months. Chen blinked. I haven't? Not once. You used to bring her up every session, as comparison, as explanation, as the catalyst, but lately, Dr. Kim smiled. Lately you talk about Maya, about your relationship, about learning to communicate without strategizing, about being vulnerable. Huh. Chen sat back. I didn't notice. That's growth. You've stopped living in the past. You're present now. Chen thought about Maya, about their relationship, about how they'd navigated the awkwardness of former therapist and patient becoming partners, about how they'd fought. God, they'd fought, because Maya didn't let him get away with anything and made up and learned each other's rhythms. About how she called him out when he started strategizing instead of communicating. About how he'd learned to just be, without 3 moves ahead, without control. About how last week she'd fallen asleep on his couch during a movie and he'd just sat there watching her breathe and feeling grateful. Not because she was perfect, not because she'd fixed him, but because she was real. And he was real with her. I think I'm happy, Chen said, surprised by his own words. You think? No, I know. I'm happy. Dr. Kim smiled. Then my work here is almost done. Almost? Well, there's still the question of whether you're going to tell her you're in love with her. Chen froze. What? Chen, you light up when you talk about her. You've changed your entire life to be someone she deserves. You've done the work not just to heal, but to become the kind of partner who can actually show up. You're in love with her. The question is, does she know? Chen thought about it. Had he said it? Had he told her? No. He'd been too scared, too worried she'd think it was too fast or too intense, or that he was falling back into old patterns. I need to tell her, Chen said. Yes, you do. Chen left the session and drove directly to Maya's apartment. She answered the door in pajamas, hair in a messy bun, holding a book. Chen, what? Did we have plans? No, Can I come in? Of course. He stood in her living room, heart pounding, and said the most terrifying thing he'd ever said. I'm in love with you. Maya's eyes went wide. Not the idea of you, Chen continued. Not because you saved me or fixed me or made me feel not empty, but you, Maya Reyes, the person who calls me out when I'm being strategic instead of honest, who falls asleep during movies and steals my hoodies and argues with me about pizza toppings. The person who's sharp and funny and sometimes hard on me and always, always real. I'm in love with you, and I needed you to know. Silence. Then Maya set down her book, walked over to him, and kissed him. I'm in love with you too, she whispered against his lips. Have been for months. I was just waiting for you to catch up. Chen laughed. Actually laughed. You knew? I'm a therapist. Of course I knew. And you didn't say anything? I was waiting for you to say it first, to prove to yourself you could, without strategizing, without planning, just feeling and saying it. That's manipulative. I learned from the best. She kissed him again. Also, I'm keeping the hoodie. Which one? All of them. And Chen Park, who'd spent 4 years empty, a year mourning someone he'd never known, and 6 months learning how to be human, finally understood what his sister had meant. Love wasn't about watching someone from a distance, wasn't about planning and strategizing and being 3 moves ahead. Love was standing beside someone, being vulnerable, being real, letting them choose you every day and choosing them back. It was messy and imperfect, and sometimes you fought about pizza toppings, but it was real, and real was infinitely better than empty. 2 years after Chen Park let Amanda Brooks go, he ran into her at a charity gala in Seoul. She was there with her husband, Kang-min Seo. Both looked happy, complete, like they'd found what they needed in each other. Chen, Amanda said, smiling. It's been a long time. It has. Chen smiled back. You look well. So do you. Genuinely. She glanced at the woman beside him. Is this Dr. Maya Reyes? Chen said. Maya, this is Amanda Brooks and her husband. Maya shook their hands. I've heard a lot about you. The woman who taught my boyfriend about the difference between obsession and love. Amanda laughed. I don't think I taught him anything. I think he learned it himself. Maybe, Chen said, but you started the lesson, so thank you. They talked for a few minutes. Cordial, friendly. 2 people who'd almost destroyed each other now, just people who'd crossed paths. When Amanda and Min Seo walked away, Maya squeezed Chen's hand. You okay? Yeah. He meant it. I'm really okay. Because he finally understood. Amanda had never been the love of his life. She'd been the wake-up call, the catalyst, the person who'd forced him to realize he needed to heal. Maya was who he'd found when he did the work, and that made all the difference. That's Chen's story. That's how a man who stalked the wrong woman found the right one by finally becoming the right man. Comment below. Did Chen deserve his happy ending? Should Maya have waited longer? And who do you want to hear about next? Dae-jung, Officer Kim, or someone completely new? Subscribe because we're just getting started. These stories? They're about broken people learning to heal. And there are so many more stories to tell. Thank you for being here, for believing broken people can change, for caring about redemption arcs and second chances and love that heals instead of hurts. Until next time. And remember, you're never too broken to heal. You're never too lost to be found. You just have to do the work. Chen did. And look where it got him.